The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show. This is Dave Hondel. Tonight, my guest is an actor, singer, model, and writer who's based out of Los Angeles. She's been seen in film, TV, and stage. We're happy she's with us tonight to discuss her work and life as a creative in a tough industry. Please welcome Ariana D'souza. Thanks for being with us, Ariana.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you, Dave, for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And, I know, going through a lot of your work, and I know that you moved to LA. I know a lot of people that are in the industry eventually may make that move to LA. Where did you start out? First of all, where did you grow up, and what made you decide to make that big move? Because it's a tough move for sure.
Yeah, it is. So I'm not from the States. I'm originally from Hong Kong, born and raised there. And I trained there. I did a lot of theater, come from a heavy dance background, a lot of music. I'm actually working on music of my own. And I trained in London for a little bit. And then I got an acting scholarship to a beautiful school in LA. And I got fortunate enough to study in both LA and New York. So I've trained in a couple of cities, but my one true love is LA.
Yeah, for sure. And I can understand why. I know a lot of actors. I mean, it's almost a necessity to be out in either LA or New York, especially LA for acting, for TV and film. But, you mentioned that you were a dancer as well. And I want to kind of touch on that because with one of my kids as a very competitive dancer. And, one of the things I know, I noticed, as being a dance dad, was that the discipline that goes into being a dancer, kind of carries over into other areas of your creative life. And did you feel that the discipline that went into dancing did help you become a better dancer, singer, actor, things like that?
Yeah, I think discipline is so important. It allows you to wake up in the morning and get started and hustle. And that is something that I carry with me every single day. So growing up, I started off as a dancer. I did 8 years of tap. I did 7 years of jazz, a little bit of Latin, a little bit of hip hop, honestly, a lot of different types of dance. And just getting back up and having to do it every single day really made me disciplined and really made me focused. But I didn't just dance. I also come from a heavy sports background. I trained competitively for swimming and triathlon for about maybe 10 years of my life. I would train about 8 hours a week. And that swimming and that dance, that sort of discipline is something that I carry into my outlook into life today.
And a lot of people, I grew up in sports myself, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, athletes, you might have discipline in your house growing up, but there's nothing like having that discipline also outside of the house.
Yeah.
And, and you're working as part of a team for the most part. Some are individual, obviously, but, sports, but you might be part of a bigger team. And so you don't want to let them down. You don't want to let your coach down, your team down. So you really have to train that much harder. So again, I think that, people that are in the arts and sports, I think you use a different part of your brain. And I think you test better in school. You do a lot of things better because you actually have that discipline that is kind of, it's like something that really can't be taught. It's just, you just have it.
Yeah. Acting and, being an artist is part of your mind, body, and soul. And if you don't look after it, then you will not be able to act or, achieve the art that you're looking for or to create.
No, being in LA also, have you been able to connect with other creatives that are seeking the same type of, I guess, goals that you have, and does it help you being immersed in that kind of industry out in LA? Does it help you become more collaborative, I guess, or part of a community that helps you all reach your goals together?
Yeah. I love waking up every morning and seeing the Hollywood sign. It's like a reminder that, I'm here. Like,
right.
I might not book today, but there is tomorrow and the day after and all the days to come. And just having a good set of friends who are all goal oriented is amazing, because when I go up, I want to bring my friends up with me.
Right.
I'm not just going out in this industry for myself. part of being an artist is making art to wake people up, to have someone watch a movie and be like, hey, I relate to that character. So I want people to feel the same way that I did when I started watching TV.
Now, how was that move to LA? I mean, because Hong Kong to LA, that's got to be a huge culture shock for
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
But when you moved to LA, I mean, what was the scariest part of that move for you?
Right. I mean, growing up, I did travel a lot because of my mom's job. So I got to like travel to LA and New York quite a few times. So I'd already seen LA and I'd already like known that I wanted to come here. But just I don't know, getting here, I felt like this is the city for me. I mean, I loved Hong Kong and there's so many cool cities around the world, especially since I've like lived and trained in so many cities. But being in LA is such a beautiful thing to wake up and experience artists around me to be able to, as you were saying, collaborate with anyone and everyone is amazing. I mean, one day you might want to act, and then 2 weeks later, you might want to start a company with your friends. LA is the sort of city which allows those opportunities to happen. And that's why I'm so grateful to be here every day.
Now, I've talked to a lot of actors. I mean, a lot of people that have, been in the industry for a long time. And what I'm hearing is there's kind of an evolution going on in LA right now where a lot of the work that used to be there is starting to move to Atlanta, starting to move to Canada, starting to move to other parts of, maybe the country or outside of the country. First of all, are you finding that to be true? And second of all, is that affected the audition process where things aren't that used to be there are kind of moving out?
Right. I absolutely. I mean, I came here a couple of years back, and since then, there have been so many shifts in the industry. And part of the reasons is because of COVID that slowed things down.
Well, the strike too. Yeah.
Strikes really impacted things for a lot of writers. I see things as like life is going to change. Like life is all about change. So you have to adapt. If there's a production that's casting in, North Hollywood, Vancouver, I'll go. If it's casting in, south of Hollywood, Atlanta, I will. I think I'm not, closed off to the idea of production going away from LA a little bit. I just think that LA will always remain as the core and the center of all of it. They still cast from here, whether it's shooting in other countries or, places around the States. All the casting is done from LA. And I guess it's cool to see what's new to come.
Have you known? I mean, I don't know. Are they still doing self tapes for auditions?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know that during COVID that was a big deal, but you would think that it would be more in person. But what I'm hearing is that self tape is still a thing.
Yeah.
And do you find that as an actor, is that a benefit or a downside? Because I know some people think being in front of a casting director, you get to see their reactions or their faces, and
Yeah.
you get to do it live. But then again, a self tape, you could do things 20 times until you're
Right.
comfortable with it. So, what
Right.
is your preference, and do you see it changing at all at some point soon?
Yeah, I absolutely have a preference. A lot of my friends are like 50-50. I'm a people person and I like meeting people. I like making good impressions on casting directors. But I do feel that with self-tapes, I have control over what I can film. I can actually manipulate angles and lighting and add props that I wouldn't be able to do in the casting room.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt to have multiple tries. So I absolutely love self tapes. And I think that, since COVID and the strikes, we've majorly moved on to self tapes. A lot of commercial auditions are still in person, but I personally love them.
Yeah. I think I hear more of that than the others. People really
Yeah,
like, I think, self-tape, I think, for the most part. But you also have a musical theater background, like a theater background. And, I know I talked to a lot of actors, that kind of move from the theater to TV and film. And
right, right.
and I mean, the acting is acting, but the acting is so much different
Yeah,
from the stage than it is, when you have to be, then there's nuances in your expressions on TV where you have an HD camera right in your face,
right. Yeah,
but in the theater, you're acting to the third row or the back row, and projecting. And so do you find that you have to adjust your mentality when you go from like the theater to like a TV role or, a film role?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree. 100% acting is acting. You know, you're still trying to convey the same emotions. But I do actually have a story of how I, transitioned from theater to film. I always loved film and I knew it was my one true love, but everyone typically starts in theater, gives you a foundation. It's easier to get into. But in one of the first, couple of shorts I did around when I was like 15 or 16, the director was like, you're a little too big. You need to bring this down.
Yeah.
And back then I was like, oh, really? I thought I'm doing a really good job. Because, I feel like that on stage would be really good.
Sure.
Um, Watching back, I was like, oh, this is huge. Like,
Yeah.
why do I look like that? That's not what I,
Right.
translated when I was acting.
Yeah.
Since then, I guess it just clicked and I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Acting on film is very like, root in realism, You're just acting like, like anyone, like yourself, perhaps.
Yeah.
Where acting on in theater, you are acting for an audience. So you have to consider reaching people in the back or where you're standing. It has
Yeah.
its pros and cons, and I love them both. I do love film a lot more, but yeah, there definitely is a difference.
Yeah, people. It's funny you should say you love film more because a lot of people I interview that started in the theater and went to TV, they all say the same thing that they really
Yeah,
love film,
yeah,
and because film, I think it's not as nuanced as TV is, and I think
right.
there's a lot more freedom. I think to block yourself and to do things differently than you would. TV is so the blocking is important, because they might have
Yeah,
dual camera shoots, or a
yeah.
lot of times
Rehearsal
in film
process.
you have one camera
Yeah,
for the most part. But the other thing, talking about film, I know you did a lot of short films and in your past, but talk to our audience, who a lot of them are artists themselves, and talk about the importance of when they get started out, when they're just starting out in the industry, the importance of taking these jobs like short films
yeah,
and well, not documentaries so much, but short films and
right, right,
even features, but indie features that you might find on backstage .com.
right.
These are things that it gets you experience, right? Being in front of a camera, number one.
Yeah,
It might not be a big network production, but even so, you're still doing the same job as somebody that's doing a Marvel film. You're still doing
exactly.
the same. So talk about the importance of taking these roles
Yeah.
when you can and gaining that experience.
Yeah, you don't want to be close to things. You want to say yes to things, whether you're at the start of your career or even when you're like in the middle of your career, because every opportunity is great. And it's not even just about the experience. It adds to your reel. You get to meet people, you get to network. For me, every acting experience or every project I do isn't just about, oh, I'm adding it to my reel. It's there, it's my portfolio. It's also about the things I learn, not just as an artist, but as an individual. I think I had this like workshop with a casting director once, and she was saying like sometimes you just got to take a break from acting for a week and go out in the world and meet people and try new things and then come back and record your self tape, and it's going to be a lot better because acting is seeing people and copying it.
Yeah, no, that's well said. I like how you said that, and it's so true. And the other thing is the most heard word in acting is no. Right? I mean, in any creative endeavor, you're going to hear no a lot
Yes,
more than you ever hear yes. So talk
I
about
love improv. Yes.
yeah. So talk about yes and right, but
Yeah.
no, but you hear no a lot during auditions, and I mean, it might not be because you're not good at what you do. It just might not be the right look. It might not be the
Yeah.
right whatever. So again, talk to our actors out there that are going to hear no and they get discouraged, but you never know if they're that close to getting the yes, and that might change their entire life by
Right.
hearing that yes. But talk about the importance of perseverance, I guess, in what you do.
In my span of my 7 days of the week in which I'm filled with doing work all the time, I hear no at least 10 times a day. And it's like whether it's emails on the phone or in person. And every single time I hear a no, I'm like, okay, eliminated. Moving on to the next thing. I don't think you can go into this industry if you can't take a no,
Yeah.
because it's those continuous no's that will find a yes. You'll find a yes in those no's. And that's what it's all about. It's getting up and doing it over and over again. Like you're not you're not in this industry to just go for, the gold at the end, to go for the reward, to get a big movie. You need to enjoy the journey. That's what, being an artist is. If you don't enjoy the journey, then maybe this career is not for you.
Yeah. And what is your main driving factor to do what you're doing? I mean, uh, is it to break through and get that major role in a a big movie, or
Yeah.
is it just the enjoyment of just being doing something that you love? I mean, what's your main driving force of what you do?
Yeah. For some reason, I can never remember a time where in my childhood I wasn't doing some sort of art. And slowly, as I've gotten older, and now that I'm in my 20s, I'm realizing that the way I express myself is through art. And that's why I consistently remind myself that every single day when I wake up, I'm not only contributing to my career, but to who I am as a person and who I am as an individual. And in order to make myself a better person, I need to pursue this art. And in order to, help others out there to tell stories, which is what I love so much, whether that's through dance or music, it's all about getting up, doing it again, trying.
Talk about your music a little bit, because I know we talked about that before we started recording. But
Yeah,
for somebody like me who was spent years in the music industry, music
right.
is my life. So, talk about your music and what can our listeners get excited about? Are you working on projects right now?
Yes, I am actually. I was so caught up with so much acting all the time. I had so many acting projects that I was always like, okay, I'll make music later. And now I'm reached a stage where I think I can, multitask. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna produce my first single. So right now I'm writing, I have things in the works. I definitely will have a song out and possibly an album in a couple of weeks or months. I'm always listening to music. I love music. It's also my life. But yeah, I will have music out and I'm very excited to see what's to come.
What's your favorite? I mean, what's your genre? What do you perform? What kind of genre is it?
Yeah, okay. I'm going for like I'm a very big 80s girl. As we spoke
I
before.
love that. Yeah.
I'm going for like a soft rock,
Oh, nice. Okay.
maybe like an indie soft rock for like a single. And I'm excited to see, what's to come. There's gonna be a lot of like guitars.
Very nice. I like that. Well, once that comes out, let us know, because we'll push it on the show,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that I love when people work on music. And when I was growing up, even when I was doing music videos, it wasn't like now where you have streaming platforms and social media to put your music out. You literally had to get signed by a label to get distributed and,
Yeah, it
and for
is so
people to hear your
easy.
music. So now it's like it's if you're an artist right now, there's like no excuse to
Yeah.
not utilize the tools that you have to get your music out to the world. And so we're super excited to hear what you have coming up. And again, like I said, let us know so we can put it on our social
Yeah,
media.
absolutely. And sometimes that's great, but it can also make it really difficult because now you have all these people producing music and it's like, ooh, what do I pick from?
Yeah, I mean that it's definitely, you got to have a connection definitely with your
Yeah,
producer. And
yeah,
yeah, a lot of people self-produce their music as well. But again, it's a tough industry, even with the home recording and self-producing and things like that. It's a tough
right,
industry,
right,
even
right.
so, because you're competing with so many other people. But again, if your music is what you want to make, you're gonna. There was a guy I interviewed, a really top producer who used to work with Michael Jackson. His name is Roy Hamilton III. He's up in Toronto, but one of the things he said that I'll never forget In fact, I think it's even on my Instagram, but he said, make what is important to you, and your word and your tribe will come. Your tribe will show up.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that I love that what he said, because it's very true. And I think a lot of people, if they're just true to what they want to make and true to their own sensibilities, people will show up, and it might take a while, but you never know.
yeah.
So good luck with that for sure.
Yeah, and I think that goes into like, friendships as well. When you're yourself, you will attract the best people. When you are confident and assured about the work you put out in the world, then you will attract people and fans.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you're also a writer. I mean, not just with music, but
Yeah.
writing for the screen. So talk about your writing. How long have you been writing, and what sort of works have you come up with your writing?
Yeah. So I've always been a writer, and I guess that means that I've always been writing. Whether I decided to publish it or not has been a new thing. So right now, I've just written a script and I'm producing a film that I've written, I'm starring in, and it's going to run the festival circuit. So I'm very excited for that. But I also have plans to assist a theater company that has just launched, and I'll be writing for them a little bit. I also have plans to write a play with one of my friends over the summer, and another film. So I'm excited to start this writing thing, because I've always been writing, and I feel as if 2025 I've finally decided, I want to release my work.
It's
I want
time.
to tell
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
That's good. Well, we're excited about that as well. And one of the other things too that we talk about on the show is producing, writing, producing, and directing,
Yeah.
which I think is a natural progression for any actor to go get into. But
Yeah.
it actually, when you immerse yourself in all the aspects of what a project entails and the work that it entails, it actually makes you a better actor,
Yeah. It
because
does. Yeah.
you're understanding the words, you're understanding what it takes, what kind of crew you need to put together, you're understanding the camera angles, you're understanding direction, you're understanding blocking. You understand those things more, because when people get into directing and producing, sometimes it's an eye-opening experience. Like, oh my gosh, I've always acted, I've always been told what to do. But now
Right.
I'm the one that's, with the script, literally, no pun intended, is being flipped. And
Right.
now I'm the one calling the shots. So I understand the importance of what that means to be a director, and so
Yeah.
forth. So it actually makes you a better actor. Do you find that to
Right.
be true?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, part of why that's happening as well is because, as the, industry has progressed and it has become a little more difficult to book roles, people are seeing it as a good opportunity to, if you're not booking, then create. And I think that's something that I've been hearing a lot from my actor friends, because since the industry, back to what we were saying, has been slow, it's a lot easier to create your own work, to write work that you are starring in, and to then attract casting directors and people to see your work.
That makes sense, for sure. It's hard to get that foot in the door when you have something you wrote, but I think the film festival circuit, like you said, is which your film is going to be
Yeah.
sent to a lot of film festivals. I mean, that's a good way to get noticed. I think
Yeah.
even some festivals that are kind of mid range, to hire. I mean, sometimes the higher, like the Sundances and Tellurides and,
Yeah.
film festivals like that, it becomes so commercial that a lot of indie
Absolutely.
writers have a hard time getting their work
Yeah,
in
that's
there.
why I love supporting indie
Yep.
artists all the time. Right now, I'm also doing a little bit of work in creative development and a little bit of social media with some film festivals in LA. So I'm assisting a creative director, and I'm helping out with, the creative development of film festivals. And I just feel as if it's a great way for me to get myself in a boat where I'm also learning about producing, because that could be a possibility in my future.
100%. That's a good, like I said, that's a good progression for somebody who's been an actor to get into producing and eventually directing and
Yeah.
things like that. But what's your biggest piece of advice for somebody that's first getting started out? Because I know you've been to school for acting and
Yeah.
and you've done some film work, TV work, commercials. So somebody, I know you made that big move to LA, which is, to me, it's mind boggling. to go from
Yeah.
Hong Kong to LA, but you did it, and you're living proof that it can be done.
Yeah.
But what is your biggest piece of advice to somebody who wants to make that same leap that you did?
I think, talent is important and it'll go far, it'll help you, but it's all about connections. And it's not just, tapping into people and going out there, putting yourself out there and, getting people's Instagrams, meeting them, but it's kind of like what, you said about building your tribe. It's so important to almost build a creative family, especially being in cities like LA or New York, because it'll help you grow not only like now, but in the long term. And also don't take no for answers. I surely have not taken no for answers. And I know there are so many no's coming my way, but it just makes me feel better when there's that one yes at the end.
Yeah, I like that. That's another thing well said. I do want to mention this too, because for all my listeners out there, Ariana, reached out to be on the show and very professionally, I might add, and just was very communicative towards me. And I think that goes a long way as well. And that's part of the reason we do this show is to train people and show people the right way to do things and how to conduct their business. And you did it just fantastic, job with that. So thank you for your professionalism and everything, just setting this up. And I think, like I said, it goes a long way in your career to know how to handle yourself in interviews and how to set them up. And, again, you have to be your own business person.
You do.
People,
I'm my own manager.
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, indie artists don't necessarily have a team around them. You might have somebody here and there, but honestly, yeah, sometimes you're a one-person show, as I am in this endeavor that I'm doing here. So anyway, like I said, I appreciate that. I just want to mention that on the air. The last thing before we go, I just want to say, how can people find you, and how can people look you up, and website, social media? I mean, how can people find Ariana D'souza?
Yeah, so mainly I post everything, any news or any updates about my career, what's going on my Instagram, just because I find that it's such a cool way to not only, have work out there, but you have visuals and you can, show who you're connecting with. But I do also have a YouTube channel, which I've uploaded a lot of, YouTube videos of me singing a few years back. And I have my IMDb, which keeps track of a lot of the new credits and films that I have done and I have coming up, such as the one I'm making myself.
Well, exciting. So what's your Instagram handle?
Yeah, it's Ariana D'souza with 2 A's at the very end.
2 A's at the very end. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody check that out. Before we go, last question, when it's all said and done, Ariana, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind when it's all said and done to your fans?
Wow. That's a really beautiful question. I want people to watch or hear me and see themselves through me, because I know that growing up, especially when I was really young, it was hearing stories told on TV that gave me a lot of hope. And I want people to feel the same hope that I once did. And I want them to feel like they can see themselves through the characters I play or the music that I sing, because, music changes us. It makes us feel better. It's not just the music, but it's also the lyrics or, the person singing it. So I want them to feel inspired, ultimately.
I like that. Thank you for that. So everybody check out Ariana on her Instagram and her other social media. In fact, just Google her. I Googled her and found everything right there. So, thank you for joining us, and best of luck to you and your projects. And like I said, anything new coming out, let us know so we can push it on our social media, and can't wait to have you back sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate all the time you've taken.